In another comparison, we look at the Nvidia and Radeon low end, with the RX 6600 vs RTX 3060. The two with different architectures are built differently, giving people a choice of options for their best graphics card. Both of the GPU were released in the same year but on either end, and at varying times away from their series launch dates. The RTX 3060 is the older option, coming out in February 2021, whilst the RX 6600 was out in October of the same year, a 6-month difference for improvements to occur. Architecture. In terms of the build of the graphics card die, there is architecture. This affects how the processing in the card functions, with different optimizations, and how they work together to create the final graphics on your display. Looking more closely at them, we see the RX 6600 features a Navi 23XL GPU. Part of the Radeon, made with TSMC 7 process, it creates a die 23712 in size with 11.6 billion, whereas the RTX 3060 is an Ampere card with the GA106-300 GPU. It creates a die 276 in size with the Samsung 8 process with 12 billion transistors. GPU die core. These are the specialized areas of the GPU core. Each area works together on its tasks to create the final image display. In particular, we have the shading units for shadows and shading the scene, RT cores for real-time ray tracing, and TMU for 3D objects. Although these aren't all of them, it is a good start. Between the RX 6600 vs RTX 3060, we see a lot of similarities and a big difference. RT cores and TMU are reported at the same number between them with 28 and 112, whilst the 3060 opts for higher shading units with its CUDA cores. It has 3,584 compared to 6600's 1,792 stream processors. It doesn't immediately mean it is better than area, as optimizations and other factors can affect it. VRAM, video memory, is the buffer between your GPU and display, allowing for a better experience with frame rate and latency as it holds the next frames ready to show. A higher capacity is especially important for large resolutions with their higher pixel counts. There are a few differences between the two cards in the VRAM department. The 6600 has 8 GB of GDDR6 memory, which clocked at 14 Gbps with a 128-bit bus gets a bandwidth of 224 GB, whilst the 3060 has 12 GB of GDDR6 clocked at 15 Gbps with a 192-bit bus that gets a bandwidth of 360 GB. So we see the Nvidia card lead in terms of the available bandwidth and memory. Clock rate, also known as the frequency, is how often the silicon crystals of the die, meaning how quickly the instructions get processed and make the graphics. Although not the final factor for performance, it is a target for GPU overclocking and getting the most out of the card. Comparing the two graphics cards, it is Team Red that takes the lead as usual, with a base clock of 1626 MHz and a boost clock of 2491. Compared to the 3060's base of 1320 MHz and boost of 1777 MHz. Thermal design power. TDP is the total amount of energy the card will consume at max utilization. It is an indicator of your energy usage and how much heat the cards will give off. Comparing the two, we see Team Green running hotter with 170W compared to 132W. So if you mind your usage, it may be an important PCIe. One other factor is the PCIe bus used on the card. This is the interface between it and the motherboard that will dictate the available bandwidth. They still use the same 4th generation connector but change the lane size, which still affects the throughput. The 3060 uses the full X16 lanes, which allows up to 31.508 GB/s, whilst the 6600 only has an 8 lane. This halves the available amount to 15.754 GB/s. Although this may not be an important difference if the performance keeps up, but older slots will also lower the limit, and so it could negatively limit the performance. For the initial performance, we look to 3D Mark's benchmarks for a direct graphical comparison. In it, the RTX 3060 achieves a score of 8,766 with a price-to-performance ratio of 26, whilst the RX 6600 gets a score of 8,131 with a ratio of 24, a near 9% difference between the two options. Looking at Tom's hardware review, we can get a performance comparison for the cards, where at 1008 at the RX 6600 averages 100.8 FPS and 70.9 at 1440, whilst the RTX 3060 manages 103.1 and 77.3 FPS on average, which does mean a lead of 2% and 9% lead for the older card. Price. In terms of pricing, we look to the MSRP of the cards. With both releasing at the height of expensive GPU, there may be some skew in their pricing. However, they did release at the same MSRP of $329 USD/PS2, so if they're available for the same price, it will mostly come down to the other factors. Is the 6600 or 3060 better? Based on the performance and price of the RX 6600 vs 3060, it is the RTX 3060 that does come ahead. It leads in the raw performance whilst meaning to cost the same. However, there are some features to consider between them. In your needs, Nvidia offers a better ray tracing performance and DLSS uplift, but AMD offers that with RSR in any game, so you can get even more out of it. So it may come down to your local pricing and what you're looking for from your graphics card. We are almost wrapping up. These are the common differences between these two. Hope you like this video. Please comment, share, and subscribe to this channel for more videos.